All right, hi everyone, I'm Meteorologist Pat Cavlin checking in with you again on this very rainy Saturday, very rainy start to the Labor Day weekend. Just switching a few camera views to give you an idea of what's going on right now. This is a look from the Amagi Bank Tower. So this is looking up to the north, so you can see a pretty big wall of water, big wall of rain here. So we're on the west loop, we're looking to the north. So Uptown is right behind me here just to get your bearings, and then the River Oaks area is back in this direction. So looking north, big wall of water coming in this direction, pushing south. So towards the camera, this line of heavy rain and storms leading to a flooding potential across a good portion of the area. 74 degrees right now thanks to that rain-cooled air. Pretty gusty winds as well with this line. Notice out of the east-northeast around 20 miles per hour. That's up towards Bush Intercontinental, so it's actually behind this line. So as this line blows through, you're going to notice maybe the winds pick up just a little bit very briefly. It's not just the Houston area that's seeing it, also down towards Galveston, just torrential rain sitting over the island here for the last half an hour at least. Couple bolts of lightning, but overall just torrential rain coming down. In fact, it's so dark. Notice a lot of folks have their headlights on right now, and visibility really dropping here behind Pleasure Pier. Taking you back to the city, though, again, this is looking now from the top of our Westheimer studios here in the Galleria, and you can actually make out, you can see this big long line here. That line is actually called the gust front, right? So that's the shelf cloud, and it extends all the way across the sky here. This is got a little more bark than bite. It definitely looks ominous, but there's nothing severe at this point. Again, just maybe some breezy winds and then just torrential rainfall comes in as this line arrives, but pretty impressive here. So obviously we're looking to the east from the Galleria. There's downtown in the distance. You can see visibility cuts down back over here. So this is where that rain is starting to come down. So let's get you to what's happening. First and foremost, the flood advisories that we've got posted extend all the way from Liberty County all the way back into Colorado, Austin, and Waller counties. So through northern Harris County here, just above downtown, just outside of the Beltway, we've got these flood advisories. This is where you can see localized street flooding at least through 6 o'clock. Galveston, you're included in your own as well. Remember, I just talked about that cell that's been sitting over the area for an extended period of time. So this is how radar has evolved over the last 3 hours. We were pretty dry through this area, and now all of a sudden we're starting to get this line of storms sinking south from Spring, from the Woodlands now. Katie, you're starting to get a torrential thunderstorm across your area. I think farther to the north, the storms kind of skipped over parts of Grimes and parts of Montgomery County, but now it's really Harris and points towards the west that are getting the worst of it. Even on the east side of town, we're getting some pretty feisty thunderstorms rolling through. And then again, that heavy rain has just been sitting over the Galveston area. Check this out. Over the last hour alone, I mean, nothing's even moved here. So let's actually pause this. We'll stop the loop and we'll show you how much rain has come down in just the last hour alone. We go to 1 hour. This is radar estimated. I mean, look at this bullseye right here, indicating estimated rainfall in the last hour of 2.5 inches out towards Jamaica Beach. You've seen about 1.5 inches to 2 inches as well, and it's very localized. So we're not seeing widespread flash flooding. There's no flash flood warnings posted, but there are flood advisories just because these cells are dropping such a heavy amount of rain in such a short window of time. Up here along I-10, it is going to be a rough ride over the next hour to hour and a half as this really slow-moving thunderstorm starts to sag south. So from the Katy area back through Sealy, this is where we're getting it the worst right now. Again, we'll pause this. We'll kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive on what's happening. Rainfall rates about 1/2 inch per hour as we take it out to the east side of town. Let's see if we can get the information on that. There you go. Look at that. 1 1/3 inches per hour out towards Katy. This might query the... Yeah, look at that. 4 inches per hour is a really impressive rain totals here. Wherever you see those darker shadings of red, that indicates where we're seeing, again, obviously the worst of the rainfall. The yellow is just that steady, 1/2 inch to 1 inch per hour rainfall. But once you get into the orange and that deeper red, that's where the flooding threat comes into play. And you can see the green outline here extending all the way back through Columbus County, all the way through Waller, and then as we get into clipping northern Fort Bend, but really as you get into Harris County, and then points towards the north and east. And as we switch over to 1 hour rain totals, or at least radar estimated, I mean, some really blockbuster numbers here. North of Katy, 2 to 3 inches in just the last hour alone. Out towards the Cypress area, we've seen again more of the same, about 1 to 2 inches of rain. And then back out here towards Atascocita, about 2.5 inches of rain. So some pretty big numbers there, even north and east of town. Back towards Sealy, Sealy and out towards Columbus, more of the same, 1-2 inches of rain. And again, this is just in the last hour that we've seen some of these rainfall totals, so that's why the flood advisory is in effect. All right, so northeast side of town here from Beaumont Place all the way up through Barrett and Sheiks, you're seeing some steady rainfall, a couple of lightning strikes here. The heaviest rain along the Beltway going towards the loop. So there's the loop down there. So from Beaumont Place up towards Dyersdale, Atascocita, again, you're starting to get out of the worst of it, but you've gotten about 2.5 inches of rain so far. I wouldn't be surprised if they extended that flood advisory south, but so far the cutoff is Atascocita here, back through the Aldine area and then going towards the south and west. So heavy rainfall now into the Hawthorne Place area. As we take you through this section of radar, we've seen 2 lightning strikes here in the last 10 minutes. Rainfall rates, though, approaching 5 inches per hour. So that's why the flooding is a concern, because if something like that cell, if you get that cell with those 5-inch-an-hour rainfall rates sits over an area for an extended period of time, that's when you could start to run into problems with street flooding. So localized street flooding, definitely a concern. Okay, west side of town, northwest side of town here, up 290 through Roslyn, Jersey Village, as you get up towards Cypress and Tomball. Some pretty steady rainfall, heaviest of it right now south of Cypress, south of Tomball, pretty much between the Beltway and getting towards the loop again. So on that stretch of 290 is where we're seeing it the worst at the moment. Not a lot of thunder and lightning. Again, nothing severe at this point. The biggest severe factor that we are following for you this afternoon is the flooding threat. So in this part of town over the last hour, again, some pretty impressive rainfall totals here north of Jersey Village, about 2 inches. Just in the Roslyn area, about 2 inches as well. And then again, out towards the north and east, over 2 inches of rainfall. And then look at this here, right out towards the 99 connector, we've seen rainfall rates average around 2 inches in just the last hour alone. And this has been moving pretty slowly through the area. That's on top of anything that you've gotten so far this morning. So with a saturated ground, that's where the concern comes in. This is definitely where it's the worst right now. So Brookshire out through Katy, it is just coming down in buckets, and it's pretty much parking itself over I-10 at the moment. So it's a rough ride from Addicks back through Katy into Brookshire, and then as you go out towards Sealy as well. Remember those darker red shadings here, again indicating rainfall rates upwards of 3, 4, 5 inches per hour. So flooding definitely going to be a concern in a short period of time. And I was just out in this area the other day, and I did see that some of the woodland areas are starting to get a little overrun by water, because we've seen rounds of rainfall in this part of town over the last few days. And so some of the wooded areas have become a little flooded. And so there's not going to be a lot of places for this runoff to go. So we definitely could see flooding in this area. We're going to be watching it carefully to see if they upgrade this flood advisory to a flash flood warning. Bottom line, though, again, from Katy all the way out towards Sealy, if you come across a flooded roadway, just don't cross it, because we don't know what the integrity, even if you know the road and you know how high your car is, you don't know what the integrity of the road is underneath that floodwater. It could be weakened, there could be a sinkhole that develops underneath it, and you could lose your car in a spot that you only think the water is about 6 inches deep. So it's just not worth it with this heavy rainfall pushing through the area. Places to the north here along 290 going out of Cypress out towards Waller, you're starting to quiet down now as the heaviest of this is now starting to push down to the south. But again, as we show you the rainfall totals here in just the last hour, they've been pretty impressive, especially just to the north of the Katy area. I mean, look at this. We've seen, and this is all radar estimate, we'll have to check some of the rain gauges out here, but 2 to 3 inches per hour, and that's all pushing south now. So Katy to Brookshire, I would expect these numbers here as we go through the next hour. Farther to the west, out towards Columbus, some good downpours, steady rainfall up towards Fayetteville, Industry, but nothing as significant as what we're seeing out towards the Katy area. That's why that flood advisory cuts off right before Columbus. So as we take you back to the wider shot and show you what's going on, the 2 areas that we have that we're really interested in right now are going to be what we just showed you here, just to the north of town in this red circle. So that's one spot here, just to the north of downtown, just to the north of the inner loop. And then down here towards Galveston, because even though the heaviest of the rain is now starting to move offshore, we are still seeing some pretty steady rain, rates around 1/2 inch per hour, which is just going to keep the drainage systems from being able to totally absorb everything. So again, localized street flooding a concern for these areas. We are going to have an update on this coming up for you on the KHOU 11 News at 6, but we are running against college football. So if we don't have the newscast starting on time, we're going to try to at least get something for you on YouTube. Either way, we'll be updating you on social media And of course, if anything significant happens, anything severe happens, flash flood warning, anything like that, we'll jump back on here on YouTube and on the web. But